Hello everyone, this is Jason. We're looking at how to solve a quadratic equation by completing the square. So we're going to look at a couple of examples similar to ones you're going to see in your lessons, and we're going to talk through the process of completing the square. So step one with all of these is to isolate the variables to one side. So in this case, we're looking at this first example here. I want to get my variables to one side. So I'm going to move my x squared term over here. I'm going to move this 60 to the opposite side. Why do I do it that way? Because I want my x to be positive and I want my number to be on the opposite side. I'm going to add x squared to each side. I'm going to subtract 60. Okay, so that's the first step. And so that gives me these are going to cancel, these are going to cancel, leaving me with x squared minus 15x equals negative 60. So step two, and this is an if needed step. So this is one of those if necessary steps, is we want to make sure the coefficient of x squared is 1. So the coefficient of x squared is 1. So right there should be a 1. Now that's going to be a problem in this second example, so that's why I'm going ahead and giving you that step. So here we don't need to do that step, so now is where the completing the square step comes in. So now we're going to complete the square. So how do I complete the square? I'm going to take b divided by 2, and I'm going to square it. That's the process. So what's b in this thing? It's negative 15. I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to square it. So 15 divided by 2 doesn't work out evenly. Trust me on this one, leave it as a fraction. It's going to make life a lot easier. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to square it. So negative 15 squared is 225, 2 squared is 4. So this will be 225 over 4. So that's what we're going to add to each side of our equation. And I'm just going to leave it just like that. We're going to work with that in just a second. So now this is a perfect square. This is why we did this process. So how is it written? It's always going to be the variable and then following this sign. So if that's a plus sign, it's a plus sign. If it's a minus sign, it's a minus sign. So this will be x minus what you have right here. So 15 over 2, and that's squared. Okay, so that's the perfect square part. Over here, we're gonna simplify this fraction. So I'm gonna do my common denominator is 4, and what do I multiply this fraction by? Multiply by 4, so this will be negative 240 divided by 4 plus 225 divided by 4. I'm going to simplify that, and don't be afraid. If you need your calculator, I know we can do this one without it, but don't be afraid to use your calculator. 240 minus 225 gives me 15, so that's going to be negative 15 over 4. I don't know why I put that minus there. Right there. And this will be negative 15 over 4. So now here's where the completing the square process comes in, or the solution process comes in. I'm going to take the square root of each side. Now this is where students often get confused. We have to take the square root of both terms. So I have to take the square root of 15. I have to take the square root of 4. Now this is a negative. This is algebra 2. So we can do this now. We can use imaginary values to get that. So this will be x minus 15 over 2 equals the square root of, and I'm going to put I outside because that's the square root of negative 1, 15 over 2, and this will be a plus or minus. So my final answer here will be x equals 15 over 2, because I add this to both sides, plus or minus the square root of I times the square root of 15 divided by 2. So that's the process of completing the square. Okay, so let's look at our second example. Same process. We're going to isolate the variables on one side first. I'm going to subtract 24 from each side. So that gives me 9x squared plus 14x equals negative 24. You notice I keep leaving a space there because that's where I complete the square. There's my x. So now this one, remember that first step, that second step I told you had to make sure that a is 1. So I have to divide each term by 9. Okay, so that gives me x squared plus 14 over 9x. Yes, we're going to have to deal with fractions again. And this actually will simplify both. We'll divide by 3. This will be negative 8 over 3. I don't know if that's going to work out or not, but if you can simplify, simplify. So again, now we're to the completing the square process. Yes, you're going to have to do a completing the square with a fraction. This is why this is not always the best method, but it's still a method you kind of need to know. So I've got 14 over 9. And I'm going to do it like this time, divided by 2. And then we have to square that. So why did I do that? Because I want you to understand this is 14 over 9 times 1/2. That makes this a little bit easier. Okay, 14 over 9 divided by, or multiplied by 1/2, that becomes 1, that becomes 7. So this will be 7/9 squared, which is 49 over 81. Go away. There we go. All right. So that's what we're adding to each side in this one. So this one's a little more fraction dependent than the last one. Okay, so let's get the color here. And so this becomes x squared plus 14 over 9x plus 49 over 81 equals negative 8/3. And I should have left it as a 9, that's okay. Plus 49 over 81. So again, to complete the square part, this becomes x with this number in it. Since it's positive, it's going to be plus 7/9 squared. Okay, over here, common denominator is going to be 81. And you can use your calculator here if you're not sure. 81 divided by 3 should be 27. There we go. So we have to multiply negative 8 times 27. And so that gives me 216. So this will be 81 negative 216 over 81 plus 49 over 81. And so as long as you got your calculators, isn't so bad. It's just fraction dependent. And so I'm going to simplify that, get my calculator back out, and I'll put it away. And I'm going to do negative 216, or I'm just going to do 216 minus 49. I know it's going to be negative. That's 167. So this will equal negative 167 over 81. And now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And so this will give me x plus 7/9 equals positive or negative I again times the square root of 167 divided by 81. Okay, so I got one step left here. I got x. I'm going to subtract 7/9 from each side equals negative 7/9 plus or minus, and this is a 9 down here, Mr. Rowe. It's a 9 right there. I got to take square root of 81. And this will be I times the square root of 167 divided by 9. So I hope this helps you with the process of completing the square. If you struggle with this as you're working, please let me know and I'll find you some additional resources.